Long time no see. So,
Happy Wednesday. It's like Groundhog's Day.
busy week.
That it is.
You guys all ready? Good afternoon, or good morning. My name is Jack Stolzheimer. I'm the District Attorney of Delaware County. I'm pleased to be joined here today by Mayor Bland of East Lansdowne, the Police Chief of East Lansdowne, John Zimuth, and also the Police Chief of Lansdowne Borough, Ken Rutherford. And we're here today to discuss some of the results that we've had, been able to get our scientific results from our investigation of the tragedy that took place on February 7th at 58 Lewis Avenue here in East Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. At that time, on that date, there were 8 people living in that residence. 2 of them I'm going to describe to you as the grandparents. They were the people who are the survivors. There are also 6 individuals who lived besides the grandparents in the house that day, all of whom are now deceased. The oldest individual is Con Lee. He is the son of the grandparents. His brother, who I'm told goes by Sue Lee, he and his wife, Brittany McLaughlin Lee, and their 3 children, Natalia, who was 17 years old, Nikala, who was 13 years old, and Xavier, the boy, who was only 10 years old. The medical examiner has determined that each of those individuals was deceased from that property on February 7th. The medical examiner, assisted by law enforcement, the wonderful people who work for me at the County Detective Bureau, Everybody who worked on that crime scene was able to recover those 6 bodies. The medical examiner, who is fantastic, Dr. Chu, and his staff, Jeff Lang, I can't thank them enough for the work that they all did. They were able to identify the 3 children using dental records. And then with an assist from our friends in Montgomery County, the Montgomery County District Attorney Kevin Steele and his staff provided us with a Bodie instant DNA system that we were able to then identify the 3 adults who died that day as well. 5 of the 6 individuals I just mentioned died because of gunfire. The only one who was not killed by gunfire was the young boy Xavier. He died of smoke inhalation. The other 5 all died because of injuries suffered by gunfire. What we're able to determine based upon the interviews we've conducted with the family, their surviving grandparents, and just our knowledge of how the situation seemed to have gone down that day. Con Lee got into an argument with the middle child, the niece, Kala. That argument turned deadly when he went into his bedroom on the 2nd floor and pulled out a Diamondback DB-15 semi-automatic pistol, which is a pistol, but it's actually a long gun rifle. So the pistol grip, but it's got a long rifle barrel. He used that then to shoot the other members of his family. Again, Xavier is the only one who did not get shot. He died of smoke inhalation. The grandparents are the ones who called police. The grandfather is the person who made the first call to police, and as that call was being made, gunfire was taking place inside the home. He made the call from outside the home to our best of our ability to understand this. Police response, as you all know, was heroic that day. Officer Shaza and Meehan were both wounded as they came to the scene to try to rescue. The call was for an 11-year-old girl who they believed was shot inside the home. So they were coming to rescue an 11-year-old girl. They were backed up by Upper Darby police as well. I can tell you, I know the chiefs are here and they can speak for themselves, but they've discussed in having everybody get together in law enforcement in a little bit of time from now to talk about the police response and lessons that we could learn from that. From our perspective at the county CID, the police response was absolutely heroic. In fact, it was textbook. Some of the things that happened that day from our law enforcement officers should be taught in our police academy. Officer Meehan, for example, was able to sustain a serious wound, return fire, because again, he's trying to save an 11-year-old girl, and somehow was able not only to return fire, but to reload his weapon using his one arm, and to continue firing until such time as the Upper Darby police were able to get him out of the scene. You know the Upper Darby police officers who used barricade shields to get these fallen officers out of the scene. I will tell you that when I arrived on the scene, it was an active scene. The fire was raging, and I saw in the front yard Superintendent Chris Flanagan of Radnor Police, who's also a trained fireman. He was standing there holding a hose with another fireman trying to direct water inside that house while he had officers trained with assault weapons looking at the upside window to keep these officers safe. They were so desperate to get inside that house that Chris was out there himself trying to direct the water to allow them to try to get inside this home. So again, what we understand happened. This is the story that we're piecing together, and we're about to close the criminal investigation because obviously nobody's going to be charged. But that the shooting took place inside the home. The niece and the uncle got into a verbal dispute. Nobody knows what, and nobody knows why, and I'm never going to be able to answer that question for you. He then shoots members of his family, goes to the 3rd floor. As the police are called and coming on scene, he shoots them. He shoots 2 police officers, and he tries to shoot other police officers. We extracted bullets from 2 Lansdowne police vehicles. He then sets a fire and takes his own life using the rifle. His remains, when we recovered his body, the rifle that was used was attached. It's the only weapon found at the crime scene. So that weapon, that Diamondback DB-15 semi-automatic pistol, was the weapon that was used to kill the other members of his family except for young Xavier, and then he used it to take his own life after risking a catastrophe for the entire community by setting the house on fire. This is an absolute unmitigated tragedy for everybody in this community. My heart goes out to the McLaughlin and Lee families. There's nothing we can say that can ever heal their wounds, but we wanted to add some closure to the community today. That's the information we've had from our medical examiner, from our ballistics team, from our crime scene folks. And I just want to say again another thank you, and I'll let the chief or the mayor speak. But I want to say thank you to every police department in Delaware County. One of the telltale signs of our Delaware County law enforcement community is when there is a call for an assist, everybody comes. And there is no pride of rank on the scene. That's why Superintendent Flanagan was out there as a MERT team member and as a fireman trying to put out this fire and save what he believed to be an 11-year-old girl's life. So again, the police response was heroic. Every officer who fired was firing in self-defense and is justified in doing so. We thank God that Officers Meehan and Shaza are doing well, and we continue to pray for their recovery. And at this time, I want to ask the chief or the mayor if they would like to say anything. If not, we'll just open it up to questions. John,
open it up, sir.
Jack, was there any sense of if Conway had actually purchased that rifle or who had owned it previously?
It's a great question, Vinny, and I do believe we've, can I get back to you with full information? I meant to find that out. He's not a prohibited person, so he could illegally have purchased it. I think we did trace the record back. I think he purchased it, but I want to make sure of that. So if you won't mind checking with Margie, we'll make sure we get the detective who did the work to actually give you the right answer. Sorry. I'm sorry.
With the grandparents, the call was made from outside of the house. Were they in and then came out after they heard the gunshots? And second, what was their kind of state of mind, their mental health? I mean, I can only imagine after all of this went down.
Yeah, they were in complete shock. I mean, I was talking to them that day on the scene, and they were in complete and utter shock. Everything that they had in this world was being destroyed. And these are people, my understanding is they came from South Vietnam after the fall of the South Vietnamese government. So they came here as refugees to build a new life, and they did so in a beautiful community. And in one fell swoop, for some unanswerable reason, everything that they held dear is now gone. I can't imagine being them. We have talked to them. They were inside the house. And they did come outside to make the call. So the very first 911 call was from the grandfather, and then we could hear shots being fired in the background, and they were the shots that were taking place inside the home.
What's
Yes, ma'am.
the plan for that site? Is there any plans to build a memorial or anything to honor the memories of his victims?
Mr. Mayor, do you know what the current plan are at this time?
No, it's still private property. We don't know.
You mind saying that?
Sure.
Yeah, it's still property that's owned, right? You know, so we don't know who the property will be handed down to at this time. But
We're not at that step yet.
right, yeah. So we're not there yet at all.
Can I just say one thing? I know the county council is reaching out to the mayor, and with anything we can do to help with that process as you get to the next stage of that, we'll be happy to help. Yes, Maggie?
Obviously, you want to look into what was going through the mind of the shooter. Have you been able to find any record of any mental health issues, crises, previous 911 calls to this location? Anything that would indicate this person was going through a mental health issue?
Nothing. Nothing. It's completely unanswerable at this point, and probably will be forever. The family members we've talked to, nobody has come forward and provided anything that would explain what happened that day. I wish I had an answer for you. I know everybody wants to know why. I don't think we ever will. I think Conley took the why to his grave.
In terms of this fire, did fire investigators, were they able to determine how he started it?
Great question. No. Whatever accelerant was used, the fire was so intense and burned so quickly, we weren't able to determine that. And as you know, what we were trying to do that day was to get inside. So we weren't trying to put out the fire to determine how somebody committed arson. At some point, we used a vehicle, an armored vehicle, to pull down the front facade of the house. That was just simply to see if anybody who was still alive could run out That's how desperate we were to try to save anybody who could have been inside. Unfortunately, they were probably already deceased.
I would imagine that once the first gunshots rang out, that would have prompted a response by everyone in the family. Is there any indication that the parents tried to stop the shooter or that there was a struggle?
We'll never know, Madeline. Whatever happened at that point, there are no witnesses alive to tell us, and we can't learn anything from the evidence that we have. These bodies were charred and destroyed by the fire. So we don't know what transpired, except that, unfortunately, Conley did take the lives of his family members and then took his own life.
Bo Colt now with 69 News up in Allentown. The location of the bodies where they were found, can you guys tell us that?
A little bit. The house has collapsed, right? So what we know is that Khan's remains were found closer to the front of the house. Theirs were found closer to the back of the house. But as I've been told by the investigators, the collapse of the floors, what fire does to a body, a human body, all of that changed whatever evidentiary value there would have been to any of that. We don't know how these and I don't want to pry. It's morbid to even think about it. I think all we should know is that these poor victims, at least they died together.
Do we know how the grandparents are doing now?
I think they're still suffering. I mean, we're continuing to be in contact with them, as we are the McLaughlin family. All wonderful people, but as we mentioned earlier, I don't know how they get up every day.
Just to follow up on the other question about the suspect, do we know anything about his life in terms of, what he did? Did he work? Did he have anything we know about him? And also, again, just to reiterate, did the grandparents say there was anything troubling him or his relationship with the family?
No, nothing, and no, they didn't.
Can you tell us more about the Bodie instant DNA and what is that?
It's a system, so there's different kinds of DNA testing. Bodie is the name of a company that has a more instant DNA test that we can do. My colleagues in Bucks County and Montgomery County have for some years now purchased their own Bodie system and are taking DNA swabs of people who are coming into their local county jails. So we're able to use DNA much more quickly when we do that. We've been talking to them about Delaware County maybe accessing the same system. It was just the same kind of community spirit we have in law enforcement, that when our medical examiner said, boy, if we could use the DNA, it would be a lot quicker, our guys reached out to the detectives in Montgomery County DA's office, and they, without a moment's consideration, said the Bodie system can give you a much quicker result, and it did.
This is kind of a technical question, but is the family name Lee or Lay?
I've been told Lee.
There was, and I imagine still remaining, a lot of pain in the community following this incident. What kind of resources are available to people, and what kind of greater message would you provide when it comes to supports that are available for someone who might be struggling?
Mr. Mayor, do you want?
We are, on March 9th, the Borough of East Lansdowne has partnered with the Red Cross and the school district to host what we're calling a community healing event. March 9th at East Lansdowne Elementary School from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. There we're going to have all types of resources, behavioral health, crisis, just everything. We are still hurting, and this healing process will take a very, very long time. Okay.
And for those of you who aren't from Delaware County, the joke is we all know each other, because it's a series of small communities that are all connected. And so not just East Lansdowne is hurting, and not just Lansdowne is hurting, but everybody in Delaware County has been hurting. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me over the last couple of weeks after these two officers were shot and this family was destroyed. And then we had a Chester police officer shot just days later. So our entire Delaware County community, the law enforcement community and the community that supports them, we've all been hurting. But we get up every day and we go on and we do what we need to do.
For the two officers that were injured, I know they've been treated and released, but how are they doing? Are they expected back on the force anytime soon?
John?
I'll take mine. You want to
speak on behalf of...
I'll talk.
Okay. On behalf of my officer, John Meehan, he's at home recovering. He's got a long road to recovery. It's too early to tell what's going to happen. He's got some medical procedures he has to handle, and that's where we're at with him. But he's overall doing okay. He's at home.
Lansdowne Officer David Shaza, he's doing very well. His wounds are healing. He's able to drive himself to his follow-up appointment, so that's a good sign. I don't have a date of return to work, but he's doing very well, and he's healing quickly, so physically. Anyway.
So that's the only good news we have today. I want to thank you all for being here. We thought it was important to get everybody out the information about what we've been able to determine. We are closing the criminal investigation. There's nobody, obviously, to charge in this matter. And so hopefully that this will be the end and allow the community to begin to continue its process to heal. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have an age on Congress?
I was born in 1981.
Okay.
I know that because I graduated from high school in 1981.